minds.
Okay.
Not locking of horns.
Let's unlock some. Let's begin with Professor George Magoha. How about that? Because we've been talking about him the last 24 hours or so. Shocking death, you know, and the circumstances surrounding that. And look, he's getting some really colorful tributes. I'm sure you guys have heard them, right? Very colorful. But in life, it wasn't like that. I mean, they considered, a lot of people considered him harsh critics. A lot of people considered him unapproachable. But now he's getting very colorful tributes. Barrack, you knew him. Your thoughts on him?
Yes, I knew Professor George Magoha. And when you talk about the battles, I had my own sparring moments with him. Of course, as a columnist, occasionally I didn't agree with some of the things that he did as CS for education. But he was a great soul. I had the opportunity to work with him on the council of the University of Nairobi for a period of about 4 years. He was a good administrator. And when you knew him a little bit away from the work environment, you found a very humble and humane individual. I knew his wife, Dr. Barrack Muluka. We were members of the Rotary Club of Nairobi, and the Magohas had the opportunity to host us a couple of times, I think, to Barbara and the family and the entire clan. You know, they are our neighbors, Yala and Manyudia. It's a walking distance.
Is that right?
We say pole to you all.
Pole to them all, absolutely. Prof?
Yeah, you know, Jeff and Barrack, you know, progress does not come from agreement. Human progress comes from contradiction, questioning, and probing. And when I think of the late professor, I think of an individual who's applied his mind to say that which others did not want to say, and to do that which others did not want to do. He was a hard-working individual. He's a prototype of a human being that Kenyans should like to reproduce, because, you know, he was incorruptible. You know, he woke up very early in the morning and went to work. He was honest. He said it like it was supposed to be said. And if you look at his entire resume, just the composite resume of the man, from his social life to his academic life, to his life as an administrator, you get an individual who's simply iconic. And I must say, because all of us are getting on in age, in his last moments, I think he gave us something. And that is to face death with courage. And without fear. When the moment came, he was at peace with mortality. And I really, really liked that.
Absolutely. Good call. Good call. Look, Prof, Professor Magoha was at the center of the whole CBC transition.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The question is, would it have been prudent, would it have been right to let him continue in that docket if you were the present administration of President Ruto? And the reason I say that, there's an example, and you would know this. William Cohen was Defense Secretary under George H.W. Bush.
Yes.
Obama came in right after, in 2008.
Yes.
And he kept William Cohen as Defense Secretary because of the Gulf War. Yes. He retained him.
Yes.
Would it have been a good idea to retain Professor Magoha in his docket because of the whole CBC transition?
You know, you are asking me a difficult question, because you are asking me to get into the minds of these guys in UDA to extrapolate on what they could or could have done.
Yes.
And to imagine that they have a program that could work for this country. I think that perhaps the better question to ask is, what has happened to our educational system? Why have we tampered with it so often and so frequently, and with very few fruits to be seen? I think that when Mr. Matiang'i was, Dr. Matiang'i was in that ministry, he was robust, we can say that, and he did a few things. I think Mr. Magoha was also robust. But I think the discussion about the integrity of our basic educational system, and even going up to the higher levels, It's a discussion that this country has not had in a proper way. And I think if these guys who are there today, if they were serious about reforming our educational system, they would not have put Mr. Mashogu there. I think, to me, it looks like he is lost at sea. We just had a debacle here of the resorts, the KSC resorts, which clearly are not believable. It's clearly a sham. They should be thrown out. And yet he's there defending all these things. So, I mean, I would say, not because Professor Magoha is now gone, but I would say that he would have been a better person to remain there than the fellow who has been put there.
Yeah. Barrack, what do you think?
It is a hypothetical question. And one can only give a hypothetical answer, because I do not know how he would have presided over the first exam for the level 6 kids. We don't know where they are going. I think there's a lot of experimentation. And let's just face it and accept that CBC was rushed. I don't know, for whatever reasons. The new government got in place and hit the ground running. Sometimes you're not very sure whether the kids should be said to be in upper primary or in lower secondary. We are aware that there has been a team, a task force, that has been looking into education, and that notwithstanding, we are also carrying on with the implementation. So I think it is a whole hodgepodge of difficult to understand things, and at some point Magoha himself got caught up in the whole thing. One of the first things he did after William Ruto became president was actually to praise him for retaining CBC. You saw it in the bulletin that you are reading a little earlier on. And therefore, I think that we need to have an honest conversation about education in the country.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. Okay, before we switch topics, Barrack, what do you think Magoha's legacy will be? Because, you know, he was big on avoiding the cheating that Prof just talked about. He was big on that, and yet we are all questioning the results of this past
with regard to exams, my honest answer is no. Education has been badly managed over the past few years. We have had results being released within days of the termination, and they are not being moderated. You can ask the examiners. And that, I think, began under the tenure of the late Professor Magoha. There was a certain desire, a certain appetite for demonstrating that work was being done very fast and being done very efficiently. I don't think we want to bury that under dust because we have lost a good friend. When the dust settles and the story of education in our times is told, it's likely to be told that we did not do justice to education in the country. And one wants to hope that the task force that has been given the assignment of looking into education and giving us the way forward will be bold enough to make some very bold recommendations. The big tragedy is that when education suffers, it's actually the children of the poor who suffer. The bourgeoisies, like the ones who are seated next to me, start relocating their children from the CBC system to international systems. I know of quite a number of people who have been busy these past few days taking their children to international systems because they don't know where CBC is going. So I think a very honest conversation would be in order.
Prof?
Yeah, it's just to say that really, I mean, there used to be a time in this country's history when if you told people that you had gone to school in Kenya people would stand up and take notice. I remember myself in the United States, when Kenyans applied to schools in the United States, there was no question about the integrity of their grades. There was no question about the validity of their certificates and the kind of education that they had gotten. And international companies would recruit Kenyans just because of the basic foundation of our educational system was so solid. Today, if you apply to, for example, an American college to go to school, the first thing they try to do is to ascertain if your grades are authentic. That's how bad things are.
Yeah, but grades must be authenticated everywhere. I think I'll remind us that only this week the United States Embassy has sent out advertisements inviting those who excelled in last year's KCSE examinations to apply to study in American colleges. I think we are still recognized and we are still respected. And the fact that people have passed massively should not detract us from recognizing that we have an education system that works. I certainly came from a school where we were used to passing exams. I went to the Cardinal Otunga High School in Mosocho, where I wrote my A-levels in 1978 before I met Makau Mutua at the University of Nairobi. And Makau Mutua will want to remember that my class of 31 of us came to the University of Nairobi, migrating a whole class.
Yeah, but Cardinal Otunga is one of those iconic schools. Yeah. It was iconic then, it's iconic now. I think the question that is on people's minds, it is not so much about the Cardinal